Hello and welcome to The Appointment. I'm Pranjal Sharma. Joining me today for a conversation is Adeeb Ahamed, who is the Managing Director of Lulu Exchange. Adeeb, thank you so much for being with us today. Adeeb, the Lulu Group is very well known for having a diversified portfolio. Before I start talking about Lulu Exchange per se and the responsibilities you have, give us a little bit of information about the group itself.
Thank you for having me on the show. Firstly, about the group, the group started its origin in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi in UAE almost 4 decades ago. Today, the group spans over having presence around 30 odd countries, where it has its own retail presence, sourcing offices, and various other fields that it is in working about. And for the last 4 odd decades, the group has in its own terms commanded a lot of success, especially in the retailing field. And today we have diversified into a lot of other segments. And one of the core segments that we have diversified is into the financial investment side, also brand retailing, and also the hospitality side. And these are the 3 sectors that I basically head up for the group.
But it's also a great story about Indians creating an empire outside India, and that's also a fascinating part of your group, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's to a lot of people who I've met, especially our chairman, has becoming an aspiration to them. So we have larger responsibilities on our shoulders to live up to that expectations. So it becomes harder for us to look at him, learn, and the best element for us is today's time we have a better level playing field that has been developed because of all the hard works the team in the past have done. So today we have come to a more compatible field, and we feel that with the kind of ammunitions that we have from the past, we'll be able to excel.
And today your group has revenues of more than $6 billion.
6.3 billion was the last figure. Yes.
That's again a fantastic growth for the group.
Absolutely.
What are the elements which you're in charge of Lulu Exchange and retail and hospitality sector also? But tell us about what is it that Lulu Exchange does?
So the Lulu International Exchange was a vertical that we started in the year 2008, and at that point of time we were deliberating on actually diversifying the group's interest, and for almost all last 4 decades we've always stood firm on retailing, which has been the core aspect of the group, And in 2008, when we decided to diversify, we did a large study, especially with DNT and other major players, to come out to understand what would be the most synergized elements that we can get into. And one such field that came out was into financial retailing. And this has been a core scenario. If you look at most of the retailers worldwide, whether it is Walmart, Tesco, Sainsbury, you will always find that financial retailing is a next step that would take up, And because we didn't have the expertise, we thought that, first, why not touch base on the lowest level, which is the remittance, but it becomes the mass market of the financial segment. We opened our doors in the year 2008. Today, we are present in almost 9 odd countries. We have a collective outlet strength of around 134. And we last year closed with a total remittance volume of close to around $4.5 billion.
So this remittance volume of $4.5 billion, is it India focused, or is it?
Around 50% of this figure is what is flowing into India at this point of time, and rest is spread across subcontinent, Far East, and a smaller section into the European sector.
That's fascinating, because in this remittance and the capital flow segment, there are many global enterprises. Absolutely. And in some ways it's a very competitive place.
It is a very competitive place.
How did you manage to carve a space for yourself?
So it's been a very simple strategy. When a lot of people were thinking about how and what should be done when you enter the space, we kept our values very simple. Our values was to be a customer-focused organizations. Learn, listen to what your consumers wants, and then start learning from them.
But are the consumers, because you're looking at the diaspora, especially from South Asia and this part of the world, not the Western Hemisphere, is it that your understanding of this sector was perhaps, or this segment of people, or is there a cultural affinity which helped you understand the market better?
More than the cultural affinity, I think so it's the brand affinity, The brand has commanded a lot of things in the last 4 years, and now being expanded into another sector. People found that affinity with the brand. And they were a strong belief, and especially on the financial side, it's always towards that it's more about the trust factor. It's all about moving your hard-earned money from one area to another. Trust plays a very important aspect, and efficiency and speed is another major aspect that you would always want to have, when combined, we had a product that was catering out, and then when the store was opened up, we found a great response from the consumers, and that gave us enough confidence to start expanding on a faster note, So if you really look at it in the last 5-6 years of our existence in the market, we could consider ourselves as one of the fastest growing in the financial retailing side,
That's an interesting piece, because remittance is usually individual run. Usually the ticket or the size of transaction is low, yes, but it's frequent, and therefore I think the margins and the spread for any company operating in this sector is thinner, which means that you have to be very efficient to be able to make it a profitable business model. Absolutely. What were the challenges that you faced?
See, firstly, unlike most of the organizations that stuck to one geography, we from very first day understood to the factor that we could not be constrained to one geography as such. So a quick expansion across the GCC was the first plateau that we did. Having a robust banking channels that would enable us to make a swift transfer worldwide, and also to the factor that we had a dedicated team, and a well-experienced team was brought inside to really steer the growth element for the organization. A combination of all these three was what led to our success.
The technology platforms are very important, because Absolutely. Again, the ownership and the security related to it. Did you have to invest in that?
Absolutely. From day on, the first thing that we made a large scale investment was not on the brick and mortar side, was what on the technology side, because we feel that, the wave that we going forward is going to be the technology led sphere, brick and mortar is so much that could be expanded in, so if you really look at it, our first 5-year, or we did a first 6-year plan, because we started in the year 2009, we made a first 6-year plan to complete up till year 2015, and that was to have a pan GCC presence. So we have today a pan GCC presence barring Saudi Arabia as a country, and then the next 3-year plan was dedicated to the Far East. Today we are in almost an acquisition sphere in Far East. We're looking to have presence in 3 odd major Far Eastern countries, but the difference about what we would do in GCC versus the Far East is the factor that Far East will be mostly technologically driven. We would not be investing a lot on brick and mortar.
So when you say technology driven, what does it mean?
Online platform, mobile remittance, these are the venues that we look at driving through the technology. So rather than having a brick and mortar where people would want to walk inside and then do a transaction and leave, you could do it sitting in your lounge, or you could do it in your office, or you could do it on the run on a mobile.
Great. So Abid, we take a short break over here with Adeeb Ahmed, but we'll come back and continue the conversation and talk about how the Lulu Group and Lulu Exchange is expanding into India, and what are the sectors that's going to be driving the growth in India.